Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. What the hell? What the hell? A huge hailstorm in Bloomington Normal yesterday. Am I right? Send me your pictures, your storm pics, 309-451-9299. You can always text me. Our severe weather coverage, it never stops. Okay, so that's brought to you by Midwest Equipment. They bring you your severe weather coverage when the skies turn gray and when the wind picks up. There is a marginal risk for thunderstorms, obviously, today. It could be I did not expect a hailstorm like that yesterday. A lot of you have been sharing your pictures with me. It happened. Our entire city was pelted for, I'd say, 6 minutes or so, with stones reaching up to hailstones reaching up to 2 inches in length. Pontiac actually had way more. I think that it was bigger. I think it was close to like almost softball sized hail in rural Pontiac. Now, my parents, they're from Wilmington, and they got the crazy winds. Wilmington is about an hour north of Bloomington. So we got this crazy hail, but they definitely, and we got wind too. I just haven't seen a whole lot of like structural damage in Wilmington. It was insane. Roofs came off. So drop your storm pictures off at our text line 309-451-9299. I hope everyone's safe. It's always really scary. And big shout out to Couples Construction and all the roofing companies out there. If you want to advertise with us, you're always welcome to. Just give me a quick email. CAT@gpmbloomington.com, gpmbloomington.com. I can help you out. But Couples Construction, they are going to be pretty busy, I bet. New York Public Adjuster, their team is going to be out there today and the day after, helping homeowners restore their properties and get back to their pre-loss conditions. So big shout out to them. They're an advertiser, and I do have so much to get to Friday morning. Surprisingly, tons of news to get through. So 7 a.m. we are going to be talking about regulating homeschooling in Illinois, House Bill 2827. It appears to be dead for now, but that's not to say that it won't come back here in the final days of session. It could come back, and I'll describe what a shell bill is. Because it could come back in the form of a shell bill. So we could see it come back. I would say that it's unlikely, but I do want to tell you about what a shell bill is and what to look out for this homeschooling bill. It was really, that was like the highlight of the legislative session this year. I do want to also get to this question, and give me a text on our text line. You guys can always drop me news tips. I'm hearing that there might be some local pediatricians who are refusing to see children if their parents are declining vaccinations. All of that and more in the 7 a.m. hour. I do want to get to this in the 6 o'clock hour. Migrant, this migrant is lecturing this reporter. This is in the UK. But he's insisting that the English people owe him a free home. And the English reporter pushes back a little bit, and he says, well, what if I were to tell you that England doesn't have a whole lot of, the UK, we just don't have a whole lot of homes to give you? And he goes, well, I'll just go to a different country, and a different Western country, and I'll get them to get me a home, a free house. So we're going to get to that. We're also going to get to this. Trump striking a deal with Qatar, marking a big change in U.S. strategy. But I'm going to ask this question. What do you think? Is this for the better? Yesterday I talked about this a little bit on the stream with some of our folks, because the question came up, who's funding this pro-Palestine DEI woke garbage on our college campuses and giving money to these universities to promote this sort of behavior? The answer is Qatar. They have spent almost $100 billion to establish influence in Congress, universities, newsrooms, think tanks, corporations, and that's according to the Free Press. I've got my references here, so I'm not a fan of Qatar, but and that's since 2017. They've spent $100 billion. And I'm looking at these numbers, $224 million, $6.3 billion to universities. I think that was all in just like 1 year, which is absolutely wild. So I'm not happy that we have this ally, that they're an ally of ours. However, keep your enemies closer. Or then keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. Am I right? And this is a totally different strategy. In the past, what we've done is sanction, 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 sanction. And now what Trump is doing is a totally different strategy. And this is a strategy that I think is anti-war. And I'm excited. Nobody's ever done this before. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. And really, Trump is doing the really Christian thing to do. And I'm just going to, a quick aside. I promise I'm going to get to the blue-haired activists here as well. This morning, she was outside and she delivered this unhinged rant outside of this ICE facility. And she says that child predators deserve dignity. We'll get to that. Real quick, a quick aside about the Qatar thing. Just this last week, Wednesday, I do Bible study, and some missionaries, they had come and spoke to the congregation. And they were telling me, and he was talking about, he was a missionary in Indonesia, and he said that the people there are very angry, and they have hate in their heart for radical Islamic extremists who burn down their churches. Okay, this is something, there's one kid who is in that country, and they built this church, and it was burned down, and his father had to build the church twice. Okay, and it's really hard to love your enemy. I want to be clear. And it really, like Jesus Christ died for the Muslims too, died for the Islamic extremists as well. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow. Donald Trump is actually doing something that I think a lot of people aren't willing to do, and that is to be friendly with our enemy. That is a lot harder to do because we are just so opposed ideologically to this nation, Qatar. They are not pro-America. They are not pro-freedom. Their interests are not like ours at all. I think this is a win, and we're going to get to it here in just a second. But first, let's get to this immigrant who thinks that he deserves a free house. Like the entitlement here is just absolutely wild to me. Like, I'm all about helping people. I really am. People think that I'm not empathetic or I don't care and I'm not sympathetic. I'm all about helping people. But the demanding that this guy is doing here, that the people of the UK give him anything he needs, is truly jaw-dropping. Take a listen to this.
Why should English people pay for you to have a house?
Maybe they give me house, they give me anything I can need. They give me.
Just give it.
Yeah,
Why?
because people in England is perfect.
Oh, so you think we're all rich people,
Yeah.
so we can give? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something?
Okay.
We are not all rich people. If I said to you, look, we don't have enough houses in England, would that stop you coming to England?
Okay. Maybe I come back in my country and I change in another country after.
Yeah, maybe you try another country.
Yeah.
If you realise that we can't afford England. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I just want everyone at home to understand that every single person in this room is absolutely desperate to come to Britain. The only reason they are here is to try to come to Britain.
So that's their migration crisis right there in the UK. And I bring this up because this foreign national, in other words, he wants free things and he has first world entitlement before he even gets to the first world, right? And it's astonishing that he admits with his mouth that he would try another Western country if he found out that the one that he's in isn't going to adequately provide for his needs and meet his needs as he sees fit. So, question, does he also demand that the government in his home country, where he comes from, does he demand that his government provide free housing and assistance there? Probably not. And that's what is really disturbing about illegal immigration and immigration just in general, I would say. There's this lack of, hey, this is my home, I want to fix it. And, it's like he is going to have this attitude that the rest of the world should meet his needs and not his own country. His own country should meet his needs. And he doesn't have this can-do attitude. Why don't you, in uprising, I don't know what country this individual came from. It wasn't clear in the clip, but try to change things in your own community, tries to change things in your own country, which is also why I'm pretty opposed to the H-1B. This visa program has definitely been abused, where people come over on these H-1Bs, and H-1B is designed to take the top people of the world and bring them to the United States. So a doctor who can perform a surgery that no other person in America can perform. I'm kind of against that, because we should be keeping the best of the best in the countries that they're in, so that way they don't get worse. If you take all the great people away, the doctors, the nurses, the chefs, all these people who are trying to make a difference in their communities, and you take all those people away and give them H-1B visas to come here because obviously it's better, their country's never going to get to the level that America is at. So anyway, all of these migrants come here, same thing. Are those migrant, especially in the UK, in those tents, and that they want something for free, yet none of them deserve it. They just think that they're entitled to it, and it's astonishing. I do need to take a quick break, but when we come back, really quick, I want to bring this up. In Springfield, Ohio, you guys remember the Haitian migrants? They were reportedly getting welfare benefits on taxpayer dime, while American citizens were struggling to make ends meet. In this little Springfield, Ohio, it's probably a lot like I've never been there, but it's probably a lot like, a Midwest small town right here. And you dumped 20,000 Haitians. They were settled there by our government in a small town. And 90% of those 20,000 were getting into the welfare lines and getting welfare, according to officials. Okay, so the Americans were treated like second-class citizens in this small little town of Springfield, Ohio. I don't want us to forget this, because this happened. September 2024 is when this was exposed, when 20,000 Haitians were just settled by our government in this small little town. And the residents, they were all lining up at the DMVs to get driver's licenses, and they were getting licenses. Or the Haitians, the 20,000 Haitians that were dropped off and settled in this small little town, were getting licenses, causing accidents. The DMV lines were so long. So I've got a clip I'm going to play about that from 2024, because I don't want us to forget it. And then in recent news, the UK has been dealing or trying to address, they're pretending to address, really. I think that they could be cracking down on this a little bit harder, but the UK is, after decades, finally addressing illegal immigration. So we're going to come back to that, and then I promise we're going to get into Qatar, because there has been some moves made by the president in the Middle East, and I think that he's securing the bag in the Middle East, and today's show is going to break this down for you. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Good morning, all. Good morning. Orlando is... Oh, are you from Orlando? I did not know that you were from Orlando. Shabbat shalom. Good morning. I so do appreciate you being here. We got nothing in Leroy as far as the hailstorm. I hope everybody's okay after the hailstorm. What the hail? These were like golf ball size hail, okay, in Bloomington normal. Now, I did see almost like softball size hail, like about the size of the palm of my hand. I saw that in rural Pontiac, which is about 40 minutes from Bloomington. Okay. An hour from Bloomington, that's where the wind kind of, I don't know if a tornado touched down, but there was extreme damage done to a little community north of Bloomington called Wilmington. That's actually where my parents live. So they're okay. Everybody's okay. But there was a lot of damage in Wilmington. Qatar. Yeah, I don't know. I think some people call it Qatar. I've always called it Qatar. Qatar. Um, people call it Qatar. I don't know why. I don't think that that's the correct pronunciation. But we're going to get to Donald Trump securing the bag in the Middle East. During the election, the left was convinced that Donald Trump would, bring World War III, despite a lack of evidence to support that claim. In fact, he was, during his 2016 to 2020 term, he started no new wars at all, was probably the most peace, brought about the most peace in the Middle East that we've seen in my lifetime, your lifetime. And the left claims, World War III, it's going to start in the Middle East, and he's going to be the guy to do it. And it would be ground zero for this inevitable crisis, World War III. And the opposite is happening, actually. And, like I said, I went to a Bible study. There were some Indonesian missionaries, and they were talking about the people in Indonesia. It is largely an Islamic country. So the official religion is Islam, Muslim, big Muslim population there. And with these Indonesian missionaries, I didn't get permission to talk about them, but it really struck a chord with me this week. And God has this really funny way of forcing you to think and putting things in your life. So literally on Wednesday this happened, and I'll tell you the line that the missionary said that really just stuck with me, and it was a hard pill to swallow. Jesus Christ died for the radical Islamists. Okay, they're wrong, but that doesn't mean you love them anyway, right? And I think Donald Trump is doing the true Christian thing here, which is really hard to do, and to, I wouldn't say love on these people. I definitely wouldn't call that, but he's not sanctioning the crap out of these people anymore. Like we've seen with everybody before Donald Trump, every president before Donald Trump, sanction, and escalate. It's all about escalation over there. Democrats, including Obama and Biden, they were more neocons than Donald Trump. More of neocons than Donald Trump, or even the neocons, Nikki Haley, which is hard to do, right? Democrats, they are actually pro-war, which is shocking because traditionally Republicans, your George Bushes and your Lindsey Grahams, right? They were more neocons than Donald Trump. As it relates to foreign policy, they are all about enriching themselves through war, because war equals money. And the U.S., they have traditionally sanctioned, these Middle Eastern countries. Donald Trump, he signed an agreement with Qatar that's generating economic exchange worth $1.2 trillion. President Donald Trump also announced economic deals totaling $243.5 billion between the United States and Qatar, including a historic sale of Boeing aircraft and GE aerospace engines to Qatar Airways. Okay, so this is going to be truly historic. This is very different approach than other presidents. And I'm just going to say it. I think that this is the true Christian thing to do. And, I think he understands, hey, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. They are our enemies. But, I think that at the end of the day, it's always better to have investments coming in than not, right? And we are going to get to Qatar, and I'm not going to let this go, because Qatar and what they've done to this country, they've they have spent $100 billion to establish influence. And if your kid comes home completely pro-Palestine, abandons his Christian beliefs, this is the reason why. And Qatar, I believe, has spent this money to try to destroy us from within, because they cannot destroy us. Clearly, because we are an economic powerhouse. We are, our military forces is insane, and they'll never beat us there. Externally, they want to beat us on the inside, which is why they've invested in things like our newsrooms, our Congress, our universities, our think tanks, corporations. So we're going to be chatting about this here in just a couple of minutes. I do want to wrap up this story with the Haitians, and I don't want you to forget what happened in Springfield, Ohio, because this is very important. That we don't forget that, hey, they came here, we gave them welfare checks, and the American citizens subsequently became second-class citizens in their own country. Here we go. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal in the 7 o'clock hour. Don't miss it. We're going to talk about this Illinois bill. Is it dead? It appears to be dead for now, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay dead. The Democrats could bring it back. This is a bill that regulates homeschooling. It was very, very controversial. I do also want to get to our local pediatricians refusing to see children if their parents decide to decline vaccinations. All ahead in the 7 o'clock hour. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about these 20,000 Haitians that were dropped off in September of 2024 by government in this small little town. Okay, 90% of that 20,000, they were getting into these welfare lines and collecting welfare. Now, I wanted to play this clip. This is back in September of 2024. And remember the guy who's in the UK, and he says, well, maybe I should have tried a different country if you guys don't have houses for me, if you guys aren't going to adequately meet my needs. I should have tried maybe the United States or some other country that would, give me a house for free. I mean, the entitlement there is absolutely wild. Take a listen to this clip. This is at a DMV. This reporter is asking questions of people in line. Take a listen. Here we go.
We tried the split line for a while. It ended up being less efficient for everybody.
Yeah. Is this about as long as it gets these days?
This is a normal Monday. Yeah, we've had worse. But
Francois? English?
No.
Standing in line 30 minutes, they might only just serve 4 or 5 people.
Got it. How many people do you think will come here this Monday?
This Monday, yeah. I'm telling you, out of this Monday, I figure at least they might see 5, honey.
What do you think the split is between new Haitians that have come in here
and
Springfieldian OGs?
I don't know too much about all.
Observationally, what have you seen?
9 to 1 easy.
Like, I'm just here because I'm just trying to get them to clear a medical car.
Are the systems stressed right now in Springfield? Can they handle the amount of people coming in?
No, they really can't. I've been trying to get just a simple Medicaid card since June. They took me off I'm a vet. They took me off of the disability and made me start paying for my own disability. And I don't know why they took me off. But so I had to give them proof of income and disabilities and stuff. I gave them all that. They still ain't did it.
So you're a veteran and you're competing with some of the resources they're getting who just came in here?
Yeah. This America. You dig what I'm saying? But I'm saying that the things that the hoops they make us jump through can have you turn on each other in a sense or say negative things. I don't have anything that's negative to say or bad to say about anybody Haitian. Sure. You know what I mean?
Do you think the town's taking care of their local residents that were here first and foremost?
Oh, no. Hell no.
Hell no. Yeah, so I wanted to play that. That was very important because never forget, okay? Never forget what the U.S. had to deal with. And the UK is dealing with the same thing, and they've been dealing with it for decades. And somehow they keep voting for the same. And I'm not here to victim blame, the UK residents, but they keep voting for the same. And they've been dealing with this for decades. But as I told you earlier this week, that they are trying to deal with this, the UK government, actually, they're trying to deal with it because it's gotten too crazy. It's just been absolutely insane over in the UK, and it only took them 25 years to address it. But the UK Prime Minister did say that they are going to cut back on immigration. The PM, the Prime Minister there, he slammed the doors for newcomers, essentially. So work visas, they're going to be denied. They're only going to take a certain amount of people in. Let's take a listen here to the UK Prime Minister one more time. Here we go.
So as this white paper sets out, Every area of the immigration system, work, family, and study, will be tightened up so we have more control. Skill requirements raised to degree level. English language requirements across all routes, including for dependents. The time it takes to acquire settled status extended from 5 years to 10. And enforcement tougher than ever, because fair rules must be followed. Now, make no mistake, this plan means migration will fall.
Well, this is a start, right? Nonetheless, the fact that it took them this long, the UK, to act as if there wasn't a problem before, this has been 25 years in the making. This speaks volumes as to who England has been who they have been representing and fighting for. They haven't been doing it for the English people. They've been doing and fighting and representing, obviously, for foreign nationals. I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat. Yes, unseasonably warm. Yeah, it was pretty warm for May. Yeah, it was like, I felt like it was more like July yesterday, 100%. Yeah, stay cool. Dems are sad that world peace is here. They live off of their war machine and the kickbacks that they get from it. Yes, exactly. The neocons, Nikki Haley, are probably going to be pretty upset as well, because this is a strategy that has never been done before, and we are going to get into this here. Trump securing the bag in the Middle East. Today's show is going to break this down. And I'll continue playing this really quick. This is the UK Prime Minister. He's finally addressing the illegal immigration that's been going on for decades, and it's a start. And the fact that it took them this long, though, is shocking, and this speaks volumes about the English representation there. They've obviously for decades not given a hoot about the English people, and more so the foreign nationals. Take a listen.
That's a promise. But I want to be very clear on this. If we do need to take further steps, if we do need to do more to release pressure on housing and our public services, then mark my words, we will. But it's not just about numbers, because the chaos of the previous government also changed the nature of immigration in this country. Fewer people who make a strong economic contribution, more who work in parts of our economy that put downward pressure on wages. So perhaps the biggest shift in this white paper is that we will finally honor what take back control meant and begin to choose who comes here, so that migration works for our national interest.
Okay, so there's that. I wanted to share that with you this morning. I talked about that earlier this week. Yeah, the UK Prime Minister finally addressing this, and this is something that is a little controversial now that we've cracked down on the illegal immigrants and to have deported them. The Trump administration, now they've got to fix and actually reform the immigration system. And in my opinion, we should be doing similar to what the UK, this prime minister, is saying. Hey, degrees, 4-year degrees, speaking English is going to be a requirement now. We're going to extend the time it takes in order for you to get a visa, so that way we slow this down by quite a lot. And that's not to say I'm anti-immigration, okay? I'm just pro-immigrant who loves America and wants to be in America because it's America. That's what our immigration system used to be. I mean, the English-speaking immigrant that is just like so unheard of anymore, and it's just something that it's something that unites us. If you can't speak the same language as people in this country, you're never going to make friends. It's going to be harder for you to make friends. It's going to be harder for us to make friends with somebody who doesn't speak English. And like this guy was saying earlier about the Haitians, he goes, I don't hate the immigration of the Haitians. I'm not going to say anything hateful or mean. But he goes, the government makes us jump through all these different hoops, and then they take away my disability. And then they give it to these people who don't even speak the language, and it's like, that's not being hateful. That's just pointing out the realities and saying, hey, this creating second-class citizens in this country, the citizens of this country, and making them second-class citizens is not fair. It's not fair to the Haitians. It's not fair to the citizens, obviously, because if you give them something for nothing, they are never going to appreciate their homeland, and that is going to cause a deep divide. And they're going to and what they're doing is showing this animosity in between the citizen and the Haitian, and that's not going to be good for Haitians, because they'll never be able to assimilate with somebody who has this animosity towards a Haitian, simply because they've been created into a second-class citizen. So it's just bad all the way around. Let's get into Qatar. Like I said, Trump asked the Syrian president to fully normalize relations with Israel in exchange for sanctions relief. Okay. So this is a huge deal. That's according to Fox News. The Syrian president, Ahmed al-Assara, and I'm shocked that, I'm shocked that somebody is doing this. I shouldn't say I'm shocked that President Donald Trump is doing this, because this is right on track for who President Donald Trump is. And he just said, screw you. I don't want the war machine. I don't want people on left, right, and I'm not Republican, Democrat. I'm peace. I'm a president of peace, and I want to bring peace to the Middle East. And he's doing it. Now, it is cause for concern, considering, Qatar, Syria, they are not pro-America, clearly. They are opposed to our interests. And I think that this is, the art of the deal here. Keep your enemies close. Keep your friends closer, or keep your friends close, but then keep your enemies closer. We are going to get to this here in just a second. This is Becky Anderson, CNN. She was interviewing I think this is the Qatari Prime Minister. Yep. So we're going to get to this here in just a quick second. Hey, coming up in just a little bit, a blue-haired liberal. She delivers this unhinged rant about how child predators deserve dignity outside of this ICE facility. And she was doing man-on-the-street interviews. That's Savannah Hernandez, Frontlines. That's a TPUSA news outlet. And she was questioning all these people with these signs, and this blue-haired liberal just completely goes on this unhinged rant about child predators deserving dignity, and it's just so ridiculous. But before I get into that, I do want to talk about Qatar. Trump, is he securing the bag in the Middle East? Today's show breaks it down. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, by the way. And subscribe, follow. During the election, the left was convinced, okay, I want to be clear, they were convinced that Donald Trump was going to start World War III. During the 2024 election and during the 2016 election, they said he'll start World War III, and it's going to be ground zero. The Middle East is going to be ground zero for this inevitable crisis. And it just so happens that the opposite is true. Donald Trump is actually bringing peace to the Middle East. According to BBC, Trump described the latest talks between two countries, which ended on Sunday, as very serious negotiations for long-term peace. The U.S. has insisted that Iran scrap its uranium enrichment to prevent the country developing nuclear weapons, though Iran has insisted that the nuclear activities are entirely peaceful. Yeah, sure, Iran. Stop it with your, we're creating nuclear weapons, and it's just, we're doing it out of peace. Okay, stop that. So the U.S. has insisted that Iran scrap that. So they're in talks about that right now. I don't think that they've officially agreed to doing that. But Donald Trump also asked the Syrian president, Ahmed al-Assara, to normalize relationships with Israel, and in exchange for sanctions relief. And that's huge. That's according to Fox News, by the way. Democrats, including Barack Obama and Joe Biden, They were almost as neocon as Lindsey Graham. They're more neocon, far more neocon than Donald Trump as it relates to foreign policy. What Donald Trump is doing here, he's actually doing the Christian thing. You had Joe Biden profess to be Catholic. I don't know if Barack Obama is Christian. Maybe he is. I don't know. I don't even remember. But they definitely didn't act like it. This is actually the Christian thing to do. And it's interesting how God, works in these really cool ways in my life. Just this week, I heard something from an Indonesian, and in Indonesia, the religion there, the national religion, is Islam, largely Islamic. There are some Islamic extremist type regions in Indonesia. This is a set of islands. And, he shared this story about the kids there, the Christian kids and the kids who are Christian and that he works with. They're upset and they've got a little bit of hate in their heart towards these Islamic extremists who burn down their churches, And he says, well, we need to try to reach those people. And he's working with the kids to try to soften their hearts and to work with those people and tell them about the good news, Jesus. And that's really hard to do, and to love somebody and tell them that Jesus loves them when they burn down your church, right, a couple of times. It's really hard to do. And I think that Donald Trump here, this agreement that he signed with Qatar, it generates an economic exchange worth $1.2 trillion. This is insanity. I mean, we're making money off of these deals. I mean, we're coming out the winner in all of these deals. President Donald Trump also announced economic deals totaling more than $243.5 billion between the United States and Qatar. There was also a historic sale of Boeing aircraft and GE aerospace engines to Qatar Airways. Now, I want to be clear, I am no fan of Qatar. I'm no fan of Syria. I'm no fan of a lot of these countries in the Middle East. Why? Since 2017, Qatar alone, a lot of Middle Eastern countries do this, but Qatar, the biggest culprit, they have spent $100 billion to establish influence in Congress, universities, newsrooms, think tanks. You want to know why your kid comes home and is all of a sudden pro-Palestine, abandon his Christian faith? It's because Qatar is buying influence at these universities and these think tanks and in the newsrooms and in these corporations. And they've been doing this since 2017. And they've been doing it with $100 billion, lobbying our members of Congress. I think in just 1 year, they spent $224 million lobbying our members of Congress. $6.3 billion went to universities. This is absolute insanity. And I want to be clear, I know that they are not a pro-freedom type of nation. I know that our interests are just totally opposed to theirs, and their interests are opposed to ours. I get that. I do want to read this. This is from the Free Press. Quote, the airplane deal. Okay, so there's this big thing about the airplane deal, and I'm going to play a quick clip of the CNN Becky Anderson from CNN. She sat down with the Qatari prime minister. But here's the Free Press. The Free Press says, the airplane deal was signed off by Attorney General Pam Bondi. She used to work for work at Washington, D.C. lobbying firm that received $115,000 a month from Qatar to fight human trafficking, okay, according to a 2019 contract reviewed by the Free Press. So I'm not a fan of Pam Bondi that much. I'm really not. Kash Patel, this whole we're going to release the Epstein files, and they haven't yet. I've been very clear that I'm not happy with that. But take a listen to this. This is the airplane thing that and they say, oh, it's just a risk to national security, And I think that, and even for me, for years and years and years, the media, but they have sown this idea that we have to be at war with the Middle East. Why can't we just let them have their country and we have our country and we don't fight, okay, and we don't go to war? Take a listen to this. This is the Qatari prime minister defending that airplane deal. Here we go.
Of a multi-million-dollar Boeing 747-8 to President Trump. When did your government first start talking to the US about this aircraft, and who broached the subject first? Was it the US, or was it Qatar?
Well, actually, it's, I know that there were a lot of speculations about this topic. I don't know what is the reason that instigate this. This is a very simple government-to-government dealing when Ministry of Defense and Department of Defense are still exchanging the possibility of transferring one of our 747s-8 to be used as Air Force One, and it's still under the legal review. So there is nothing really. I don't know what was like, why it became like so big as a news that this is something that considered very in a very strange way.
Can we take?
Yeah. So number one, the deal hasn't even been officially closed, or the gift hasn't been officially accepted. And I don't know if they're going to, but at the end of the day, what Donald Trump is doing is he's keeping his enemies closer. Okay. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And this is the art of the deal. And it's a different strategy. In the past, we've done sanctions, we've escalated things over there so that way people could enrich themselves. Somebody actually got onto the stream and he said, Dems are sad that world peace is here. They live off the war machine and the kickbacks they get from it. Yeah. So that's what really this is all about. They want the escalation. They don't want actual peace because they want to keep going to war so that way they make a ton of money. Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't really matter. And here we have a president who is doing the actual Christian thing and is coming to the table and not fighting. And I think that's possible without jeopardizing our interest. Now, if you do have a problem with lobbyists, if you have a problem with foreign interests and what Qatar has done, and like I said, Qatar, it's $100 billion they've invested in our universities, Congress, newsrooms, think tanks, all that stuff. If you've got problems with this, then yes, it's concerning. But I think that Donald Trump is going about this the correct way, because it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a friendly relationship and negotiate. It's better to have investments coming in than it is to not have those investments coming in. And let me reiterate, this is $1.2 trillion. Okay. He signed an agreement with Qatar to generate an economic exchange worth $1.2 trillion. And Donald Trump also announced economic deals totaling $243.5 billion between the United States and Qatar. So this is a win. It's a win, and I think it's a totally different strategy than any other president that I've had in my lifetime, your lifetime. Obviously, Biden and Barack Obama, they were all about escalating things in the Middle East so that way people could get rich. And here we have a president, totally different strategy. I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat. Obama's father is Muslim. Yeah. I don't know if Obama has professed to be a Christian. I think that he has. His father is a Muslim. He says he's a Protestant Christian. He was raised in a non-religious household, but developed religious views in his life. He probably only said that he's religious because it would have secured the presidency for him. It's hard for, I could imagine, a Christian, being a non-Christian running in the United States, that would be kind of hard to secure a win. I'm just going to be honest. So most likely he says he's president. I don't know. I don't know Obama, obviously, personally, but I do know that Barack Obama, Joe Biden, the escalations in the Middle East were by design. The sanctions were by design. Now we're finally talking about lifting, at least on Syria, sanctions. Donald Trump, he asked the Syrian president, let's normalize your relationships with Israel. Okay. There needs to be peace there. And in exchange, we're going to lift the sanctions off of you. And if you violate this, I don't know what the negotiation was, but if you violate this, something will happen, right? So he's actually bringing about peace in the Middle East. And it's so funny and it's hilarious that and the way the Middle East received him, I mean, that was insanity. I mean, he was playing YMCA. They had like literally rolled out the red carpet for President Donald Trump. These are the types of people who scream death to America. Okay. And I think that this is the only president that would get this kind of reaction, because he actually understands that, hey, this animosity, this division, this war, this escalation, this is by our own making, with the sanctions, with our people profiting off the war going on. He said, enough's enough. We're going to bring them back to the table. We're going to make deals. We're going to make money. And hopefully that doesn't jeopardize our interests. And I do have concern. I'm not going to lie. I'm always worried when we're being friendly with the enemy, but I think Donald Trump understands this. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And it's the art of the deal. So let's actually switch gears. I do want to talk about Savannah Hernandez talking with this blue-haired liberal. This is going to really drop your jaw. This blue-haired liberal actually says that child predators. What about the victims? She says child predators deserve dignity, and here I am thinking, like, what about the victims? Do they deserve dignity? So we're gonna share this. This is a longer clip, but it's hilarious. So you guys are gonna take a listen to the whole thing when we come back from our radio friends. Smash that like button, share this out. Tariffs and sanctions works. They make bad actors behave in the world. Yeah, so I would say, like, sanctions, I think that they work in times of war, okay, to really isolate somebody economically. Sanctions and tariffs, totally different things. But sanctions in times of war can work because you've backed somebody into a corner and their only option is to comply. Tariffs, yes, 100% they work, and we've just been screwed my entire lifetime, your lifetime, by everybody, probably since the 1930s, and I've talked about this before, where our revenue would come in, it was 70-30, okay? 70% was coming in from the taxpayer, so you and me, 30% was coming in from our foreign allies and our the people we do business with globally, okay? So that was coming in 70-30. But since like 1930-ish, it shifted. And it's shifted so then it became 80-20, and then it became 90-10, then it became 99-1. And we were getting screwed out of all of these tariffs. Donald Trump came in, and really that's going to help the taxpayer. Because we're going to alleviate the taxpayer with the tariff. So yes, 100% it makes them work. And not to mention, it just makes it fair. The bad actors, have to comply. Yeah, they have to behave, but they just have to, it just has to be fair, and that's what Donald Trump's tariffs did. It's not a sanction, where a sanction is like, we're cutting you off entirely from playing economically. And I think that has raised tension so much in the Middle East. And here you have a president coming in and promising to lift those sanctions from the Syrian president in exchange for peace. You stop hurting Israel, you stop messing with Israel, then we're going to lift the sanctions. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. So I do appreciate you tuning in. The radical left, they have to adhere to this notion, no matter what, despite all logic, despite what's correct, what's morally correct, factually correct, they have to adhere to this ideology. No human is illegal. And they will do anything it takes to affirm this delusion. To the point where they're defending the scum of the earth, child predators, and saying that child predators and murderers deserve dignity and should be treated like you and I. Okay. And that's just, I'm sorry, wrong. So this blue-haired woman has adhered to this notion that no human is illegal, and even child predators and children traffickers and murderers, they deserve dignity. And I get what she's saying to an extent, that yes, we shouldn't but like a child predator, you know what I mean? The needle is what's needed there. Okay, child murderer. Okay, I mean, come on, that is dignity. Okay, we could, completely throw dignity out the window and treat you like the scum of the earth you are, but no, we have a justice system. We're going to deport you. You're going to go back to your homeland if you're here illegally. Okay, and you're going to serve prison time there. That's dignity. Okay, we could treat you like the scum that you actually are, but the dignity of you serving time, whatever it is, capital punishment, having a needle, when you kill children, yeah. So Savannah Hernandez, she interviewed a lot of these protesters outside of this ICE detention center, and the answers are worse than you think. I gotta take a quick break. The answers are truly gonna drop your jaw. A little bit later in the 7:00 hour, we're gonna discuss House Bill 2827. It appears to be dead. This is the regulating homeschool bill. It could come back. I want to tell you how that would be possible. But then I also want to get to BLN News, because there's this question out there. Are local pediatricians, and you text me if this has happened to you, the local pediatricians, there's some that are not seeing, allegedly, children if their parents decline vaccinations, which is wild. I'll be right back with all of that. Be sure to head to cities929.com. We got something really special going on where you can pay tribute to your heroes. So we invite you to pay tribute to someone who has served this country with courage, dedication. Share your love and gratitude and remembrance for those who truly deserve it. Submit your tribute and help us commemorate them on air Memorial Day weekend, okay? So you guys can do that via our website, cities929.com. Click on the Memorial Day Hero Tribute Campaign, and we'll read them all on air, the tributes, and we'll remember those who truly deserve it, the sacrifice, because see, freedom isn't free. Freedom is not free. All right, we'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. All right, folks, no human is illegal, but there are illegal immigrants. World Without Borders is Agenda 2030. Yes, exactly, 100%. Like, there are people who do illegal things and should be punished, okay? I mean, I don't know what's so hard about this notion that there is punishment and there are consequences, tragic consequences, in some cases, to your actions, like the death penalty. I don't even necessarily agree with the death penalty. I say lock these people up because, I've really changed my tune on the death penalty. Although children, if you child sex predators, child murderers, there's just some people who will never change. The death penalty, and the reason why I'm sort of against and changed my views on it a lot, is because you never get a chance to have salvation, okay, when you prematurely take somebody's life. It's not really up to us, and I say that the same thing about abortion, right? It's not up to us to decide and to prematurely take someone's life. They have a chance to make their decisions. Now, there are tragic consequences to some of these decisions that you make, and we have to, as a society, decide, hey, what kind of punishment do we give to the worst of the worst, scummiest people on earth? And they do illegal things. No human is illegal. Yeah, humans do illegal things, okay? And the left is so good at language. No human is illegal. Well, no, your existence is should be much like the abortion argument, I'd imagine that the leftists would say the same blue-haired liberal that we're going to get to here in just a second. Here's a picture of her. The same people who would say no human is illegal, they would definitely be pro-abortion. Okay, this person is likely pro-abortion. Okay, and no human is illegal. Okay, so you believe in the existence of people and the life of people, so you're pro-life then. And I take the position that you can't be truly pro-life if you are pro-death penalty. And I understand what this woman is about. Hey, everybody deserves a chance to live, and that's about the baseline. Okay, if you get the right to live, okay, but anything you do outside of that, there are consequences. I would make the argument that child predators, murderers, unlike unborn children, they make decisions, and those decisions have consequences, and society has deemed things like the death penalty the consequence to certain actions. Children, they didn't do any sort of action, obviously, because they're unborn, and deleting them, erasing them before they even have a chance to exist. I don't know what kind of argument there is for that. According to this liberal, don't they have dignity, right? Don't the victims have dignity? What does it say to the victim if you allow this no human is illegal individual, an MS-13 gang member, a child predator, a child rapist? What does it say to the victim if you just don't give them any sort of consequences? They deserve dignity and justice as well. I don't like the death penalty because mistakes have happened. Yes. Yeah, it's just, I've changed my views on it a lot. I'm not super pro. I'm castration. Yes. For child predators, child rapists, 100%. But anything like, you don't get the chance to seek salvation if you delete somebody and if you kill somebody. Okay. And I'm just of the belief that, hey, I'm just super pro-life. Even if you've made decisions and actions, and you deserve consequences, but as a society, I think that it's crucial for the pro-life movement, the deleting of unborn babies, that we recognize the sanctity of human life. Yes. But what this person is advocating for, these people are alive. They're in a deportation ICE facility, and they're going to be deported back to their homeland, and their homeland is going to decide what they do with them. That's not up to us, but we afford them the dignity of staying alive and deporting them back to their homeland. I mean, that is enough human dignity for somebody who kills people, somebody who rapes children, right? That's the types of people we're talking about in this ICE facility specifically. They're criminal illegal aliens. Why do the lefties look so icky? Yeah, it's just this lack of awareness, this self-awareness. I think that they've been told lies that beauty doesn't matter. The binary doesn't matter, that there's things that are beautiful and there's things that are not. Okay, there is the color red, there is the color green, there is hot, there is cold, and we live in a binary, and we have to accept that. They just oppose that ideology totally, that we don't live in a binary, that there's good and evil, that there's black and white, that there's we just have opposites. Okay, and they refuse to live in that reality, which is why, and they protest really that reality with their decision. So the blue hair, right? So they're protesting reality, that blue hair is icky and weird, and it's not something that you should be doing, and the facial piercings, right? That is also something that is just at the end of the day, factual, icky, doesn't look good, right? And beauty is something that can clearly be defined and seen, and they don't agree with that notion at all, that beauty exists And that there's things that are ugly and that there are things that are beautiful, and they don't want to exist in that reality, so they like protest by making themselves look absolutely abhorrent for whatever reason. And it's just sad. All right, let's get to this clip. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel today. Welcome to the Red Kingdom. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Holy hail! What the hail? What the hell happened yesterday? It was a huge hailstorm in Bloomington Normal. It was like 2-inch for 6 minutes, 2-inch hail, 2-inch in diameter. So like golf ball size hail. Now, I was looking at pictures north of Bloomington, Pontiac, rural Pontiac, about 40 minutes. They had a like almost softball size hail. I would say like the size of my palm. And then I looked even further north. They had a lot of wind damage and a lot of like, I don't know if tornado touched down or what. I don't think it did. But they had a lot of like roofs torn off in Wilmington, which is now north of Bloomington. But today still could be a little risky out there, okay? There is a marginal risk for severe weather. So stay tuned. Midwest Equipment, they bring you your severe weather coverage right here on Cities 92.9, your severe weather center. When the skies turn gray and the wind picks up, turn the dial to Cities 92.9. Okay, let's get into a few things here this morning. I want to get to this. It's blue-haired liberal going on this unhinged rant. And like I said, the left, they have to believe in this notion and really this doctrine that no human is illegal. Look, humans are capable of illegal things, okay? And when they say no human is illegal, okay, what about the unborn children? Okay, do you believe that they have dignity or should exist? And their answer will always be no. Okay, so they have to affirm this delusion that no human is illegal. And they have to affirm this delusion to the point where they defend the scummiest people on the planet. Okay, just to put it frankly, they're murderers, they're child predators, and they're most definitely not worthy of the privileges you and I are worthy of because we're law-abiding citizens. Okay. There are consequences to your actions, and this is something that the blue-haired liberal here does not understand. Savannah Hernandez interviewed protesters outside of this ICE detention center. Let's take a listen to this. Now, this is a bit long, but this is really fascinating, so take a listen. Here we go.
People are inside that facility.
And they're MS-13 members, they're child traffickers, they're drug traffickers, they're bringing drugs into this country.
They are still human beings.
So you don't care if they're the worst criminal in the world and they have raped and murdered children. They're okay and they're still human beings and they should be here?
I believe that they are human beings and that they deserve dignity just as everybody else.
You think child rapists deserve dignity?
Absolutely, I do.
This is a democracy, and we're here, the people who are here, we're here to stand up for our democracy.
What do you say to the people who say that Donald Trump was democratically elected to mass support the illegal aliens in this country?
There are laws in this country. Due process is one of those laws.
So I was reading that 75% of the people in this vicinity have either committed a crime, have pending criminal charges, and they did get that due process, and they are criminals. What are your thoughts on that?
I would guess that that's a lie because we don't even know who's in there.
So do you think it's American citizens that are being rounded up and thrown in here? Or what is the thought process?
How would we know?
I think a lot of times these people don't even speak English and they're not from the United States of America and they came into the country illegally.
I want to know where you're from, where this station is from, because the kind of questions you're asking me are very, very offensive.
Well, you're offended by my question, but a lot of Americans are offended by the fact that illegal immigrants broke into our country and have been murdering people.
I'm finished.
So I think that a lot of people want to know why you guys are defending criminal aliens that have committed crimes in this country.
I think you need to check your facts.
Who should we be fact checking with?
Well, do you have names?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Where are those names?
I can pull them up for you right now. Would you like to see them? We can go through all of because there's convicted child rapists, there's drug traffickers, there's known members of MS-13 in these areas.
I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States to support and defend, especially the idea of due process protections. I will stand by that.
Okay. And so for the illegal aliens who are found to be in this country illegally and found to have committed crimes, should they be deported?
The idea of who is illegal.
If you have mass deportations, they are not just targeting people who have committed crimes. They are saying that people are criminals simply for crossing the border.
But that is a crime. That's a federal crime.
I personally do not believe that that is a crime. The vast majority of people who are coming to America are coming here for economic opportunity.
But that's not asylum.
I disagree. Asylum, I'm a political scientist. And the truth is that most words that we take for granted are actually quite up for debate.
We have had cases on major news of people that were specifically court ordered not to be deported.
Like who?
And were. I honestly don't have the name on the tip of my tongue.
I think you're talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is a known MS-13 member. Do you think like somebody like that should be allowed to stay in the United States?
He has an order to lawfully be in the United States. Pursuant to that order, he should be in the United States.
But he's not a citizen of this country.
He has a court order allowing him to stay in this country.
He didn't have a court order allowing him to stay in this country.
Yeah, the court order.
And also, the court order stated that he couldn't be he couldn't be extradited to El Salvador because of fear of MS-13. But that's been eradicated, and El Salvador is now a safe nation.
You perhaps are correct. I would have to check the references on that.
I pity you, I truly do, because you don't care for the dignity of every human being.
I don't care about the dignity of child rapists, you're right, or drug traffickers or MS-13 members who have made my country unsafe.
And I'm sorry
Absolutely.
that you have had a really hard life.
I care about protecting children, and you're talking about due process, but to be quite honest with you, these people haven't given due process, and they've been found to be criminal, illegal aliens, and so I do think that they should be deported.
That's very sad to me. You're an exploiter.
So you're here to defend criminals, is what you're saying.
I'm here to defend every single human being. Everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves dignity.
Thank you for your
Everybody does. Even you. Even you. Even you.
I'm not a child rapist or an MS-13 member, so I would hope so.
No, you're just a capitalist exploiter who likes to exploit people's pain.
Thank you. Thank you.
You.
Everyone deserves loves. Bleep you. You even deserve love, Savannah Hernandez. I know that was a little bit long, but I definitely thought it was worth it. So what you were hearing there, Savannah Hernandez interviewed protesters outside the ICE detention center where they were housing. 75% of the people in that facility were child rapists and murderers. 75% of them convicted of those crimes. This is the epitome of cognitive dissonance. Savannah Hernandez forced them to adhere to this lie that no human is illegal. Human beings commit illegal activities all the time. And this is something that they hold as a doctrine, as truth, despite it being morally and factually correct. Or incorrect. It is morally and factually incorrect to say no human is illegal. No. Human beings commit illegal acts all of the time. Okay, and these answers are so deranged. First off, the blue-haired liberal lady, she actually, I wonder what she'd say to the victims of these child rapists and the murderers. I wonder if she believes that they deserve dignity, because obviously they deserve justice. And I think that it is dignity. We are treating these people with dignity because we're housing them in taxpayer-funded facilities. We are shipping them with taxpayer funds back to their homeland to serve out their time and to answer for their crimes in their countries. Okay, I think that is very, very much dignity for these types of people. I mean, we're talking about child rapists here, the worst crimes known to man, the heinous crimes. So nonetheless, anyone who condones these types of evil under the guise of compassion is deeply, deeply suspicious. This woman is deeply suspicious. She thinks that she wants more than just dignity. That's the thing. She's not just for dignity. She's for more than dignity, because we are treating them with dignity and respect by deporting them. If we treated them as the scum that they are, they'd be executed in the street and humiliated, and what we used to do. But we've become a civilized society, and we have progressed. What she actually is calling for is not dignity. She's calling for special treatment of child predators. And the second lady here was not much better in this clip. She proved that she had no clue what she was protesting against, because she went as far as to spew out this conspiracy theory that Donald Trump is rounding up American citizens and deporting them, when clearly, fact check, 75% of people in those in that facility are criminally illegal. All of them are illegal aliens. They committed the crime of entering the country through an illegal port of entry. But also 75% of those people in that facility, that specific one she was outside of, they were criminal illegal aliens. So do leftists truly believe that just because somebody comes to this country from another country with a crappy economy, do they truly believe that makes them a good person? I think that leftists do think that. I think that just because somebody comes from a country that's poor, that automatically makes them a good person. And that's just stupid. I'm sorry. But this is what they have to do to pretend no human is illegal. They have to defend the scummiest people on earth. And it's comical how at the end of the video, this blue-haired liberal tried to portray Savannah Hernandez as a capitalist exploiter, which is just silly, as if she was the one who committed these heinous crimes, which isn't true, right? And like she thought Savannah was worse than the people from inside of those walls of that facility. And she said, "Oh, you deserve love, and child predators deserve love." But then at the end, she didn't express any sort of love towards Savannah Hernandez because she said, "Bleep you," right? So, oh yeah, definitely feeling the love. And this is what happens when you get people in front of a TV screen for way too many hours during the day, and they're sitting there and they're taking in all of this information about this Maryland man of 3, Maryland father of 3 deported, and they're gaslighting the most naive population among us, okay? And this is what happens. These sorts of people, this propaganda is intended for these sorts of people, the blue-haired liberal, the woman. Notice how the woman, the second lady, with Savannah Hernandez, she goes, "What station are you with?" Because that lady sits in front of her TV probably for 50 hours a week and just sucks in all of this propaganda. There was a third guy, you could barely hear him because he had the mask. But these poor people, these protesters, have ignorantly bought what the media is selling. And that's what that's who the propaganda is intended for. That being said, it begs the question, why do the left believe if you come from a crappy country, you automatically get treated with respect? I don't understand that notion at all. And she says, "Oh, asylum is, if you come from a crappy economic situation and you come to this country, that is seeking asylum." No, it's not. There's a legal definition. It's political prosecution, religious persecution. You're going to be killed in your country. Times of war, Ukraine refugees, they came and sought asylum here in the United States. That's actual asylum. Okay, if you're going to be killed in your country and if your life is threatened, that's seeking asylum. Not to mention, asylum seekers have to seek asylum in one country. They don't get to cherry pick or go to a different country, go to that country, and then seek asylum from that country. So, for example, you've got people. If you are coming from Romania, right, you take a plane to Mexico and then you illegally cross the border. That is not asylum. Okay, you can't seek asylum. You have to come straight to the United States from Romania. This is just how the asylum law works in this country. But anyway, they're not on the side of they are not on the right side of compassion here. She is siding with child predators, this blue-haired liberal, siding with child predators and murderers, and this is just deeply pathetic. All right, I got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with Conservative Cat. More news ahead on Cities 92.9. Good morning. So I do appreciate it. the good people try to stay in their country and fix it. We get criminals fleeing. Yes, exactly. Look at El Salvador. Yeah, so El Salvador, it's incredible what the El Salvador president has done there. Actually, I remember, I think it was like New York Times or I don't know, some mainstream news article. They were saying that he was years ago, I think it was like in 2022, 23, when they were really cracking down on the gang activity in El Salvador. The president, the newly elected president, he started cracking down on this, and what he was doing was, hey, if you have gang affiliated tattoos, we're locking you up. And he said that is your due process, which, I mean, yeah. So, and they would take them off the street and lock them up if they had these gang tattoos. Now, I do think that they, made sure that these people were actually gang members, but they didn't risk it, and they took them off the streets right away. These people with the gang affiliated tattoos, and they fixed their country. As far as it used to be the murder capital of the world, it is no longer the case. I mean, crime is plummeted in El Salvador since that El Salvador president cracked down on it as hard as he did. And the mainstream news, they painted him as some sort of bigot or whatever because he was simply checking people for MS-13 affiliated tattoos and things like that. And if they did have them, he would go and lock them up. And yeah, so also needed to remove all of the corrupt judges. You're exactly right, Tanya. The El Salvadoran president said he needed to remove the corrupt judges. Exactly. And it's amazing what can happen in a country when you gut the corruption and you treat criminals like the criminals they are. And, the tattoo, why else would you get a tattoo? Not to mention, if you have the tattoo, really it's for your own protection because we're going to take you off of the street. And, there's violence, gang violence between these people with the tattoos. The tattoos are a signifier that, hey, I'm a part of this gang. It could risk your life. And really what the El Salvador president was the compassionate thing to do, not only for the citizenry, but also for these criminals who have been led astray. Yes, all humans deserve dignity, and it is dignity to take them off of the street and to lock them up for their actions, because there are consequences to actions. And unfortunately, the blue-haired liberal doesn't understand that from this video, that dignity is simply, I don't know. For me, the definition of dignity would just be to, meet their crimes with the same amount of force or with the same amount of consequence, if that makes sense. So you kill somebody, you're killed, right? That is dignity. Do I necessarily agree with capital punishment? No. I'm actually pro-life, and I don't believe in the death penalty for many reasons. I've changed my beliefs on that. I was very, very pro death penalty, and then have changed my belief because I believe that every human being, even if they've committed the most horrible actions, deserve life and deserve a chance at repentance. But to take them off the street, lock them up, and treat them like the criminal they are, I'm not too brokenhearted about that, okay? Because terrible actions have terrible consequences, period. All right, we're going to get to a few things this morning on blnnews.com. Diane Benjamin, she put this out there, and it's quite incredible. The response from a doctor about these childhood vaccinations and pediatricians. So these pediatricians, allegedly, there are some locally, I don't know, 309-451-9299. You guys can always text me. Let me know if you've encountered this, where pediatricians here locally in Bloomington Normal are declining to see children if their parents decide not to vaccinate. Okay. Now, Diane Benjamin shares this link on her site. This is absolutely incredible. And this list I'll share with you. It shows you the childhood and adolescent immunization schedule. Okay. And by 15 months, we're looking at 24 shots. I mean, that's kind of insanity. And this question is raised, hey, why are we giving hepatitis B shots to children right after they turn 2, when hepatitis B can only be sexually like transmitted, okay, or through needle drug use, okay, hepatitis B. So why do babies need doses of this vaccine before they turn the age of 2? Why do they need COVID vaccinations when the virus doesn't significantly threaten babies? And this vaccine has obviously been linked to injury, myocarditis, so many other things, blood clotting, right? This has vaccine injury or vaccination injuries have been linked to the COVID-19 virus or vaccine, and that is something that isn't even disputable anymore. So I'm sure that with RFK Jr. As the HHS, that the CDC is going to update this childhood vaccination schedule pretty soon, and I hope that that's the case. But according to Diane Benjamin, she has gotten word that there are doctors telling parents that they can't bring their children back if they aren't vaccinated. Okay, so I've got the question, right? And you can always call me, 309-451-9299, or text me, 309-451-9299. You can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm always available. I'd love to hear from you if that's the case. We'll bring you onto the show. You can tell us more about the doctor who refuses to see your unvaccinated child. But there was a doctor who responded actually to her article, and we're going to get into the response from the local doctor, who's nameless and is not named in this article, but it sounds like he's hopped on the Maha bandwagon, the Make America Healthy bandwagon. So we're going to get to all of that, and this is the vaccination schedule. I think I shared that with you. Here we go. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the News Talk Bloomington Normal. Coming up, we are going to be talking about regulating homeschooling in Illinois. That's HB 2827. Is the bill dead? Looks like it's dead for now, but will it stay that way? Come back to find out next. But first, I do want to get into BLN News. They've got the story here. Incredible work Diane Benjamin does. This is been something that has been whispered, I guess, throughout the community, that there are certain pediatricians locally who are refusing to see children if their parents decline vaccinations. I don't know how much truth is to this. I haven't encountered anybody on a personal level who has encountered this. I've just seen reports. Reportedly, people are saying that there are certain pediatricians who are refusing to see children if their parents don't vaccinate. If that's the case, give me a text, 309-451-9299. I'm always ready to take your message. I interact with my listeners daily. It's important to me, okay, that we get the information out there. So you can always text me or find me on Facebook. Just type it in your search bar, Conservative Cat, and while you're there, follow the page for me. Wink, wink. Okay, that helps me out a lot. Now, the CDC, their schedule here, and I'll throw it up on the stream. You guys are always welcome to check out the references on the video. I do that so that way you guys know I'm not lying. But the childhood vaccine schedule, it's kind of shocking. For the first 15 months of a child's life, they have to receive over 24 shots, about 24 shots, something like that, within the first 15 months of their life. And, this question is raised here on this BLN News article. Here we go. Since hepatitis B can only be transmitted sexually or through needle drug use, why are babies getting doses of this vaccine before they turn the age of 2? So just common sense questions should be asked like this. Now, I'd imagine that being that RFK Jr., HHS, right, I'd imagine that he is going to roll back some of these vaccines on this childhood vaccine schedule, that the CDC will be directed to do that. Now, I've heard local doctors, this would be on news says, or reports are telling parents not to bring their kids back if they aren't vaccinated. So you got to vaccinate your kids, otherwise I'm not going to see them and treat them and diagnose them for issues because I want them to be vaccinated. So that's insanity. Now, there has been a response from a doctor on this story from BLN News that points out that, hey, reportedly, some pediatricians here locally are not treating or seeing children who are unvaccinated. The doctor responded to the story, and Diane, she's quoting she is laying out some of what the doctor had said. Doctors are well paid for pushing vaccines by both hospitals and insurance companies. Okay. There is evidence behind the guideline, or the evidence behind the guidelines is weak. Safe, effective is repeated over and over until people believe it. Now, this is the doctor, okay, who's nameless. But safe, effective is repeated over, and these vaccines are safe and effective, although the evidence behind these guidelines, the 15 months, the schedule, the 24 shots, the 15 months that you have to get before you're 15 months old, okay, for these babies, it's weak. The guidelines, the recommendations, right, for what vaccines you should get, the evidence behind, is just weak. And the safe and effective line is repeated over and over until these doctors believe it. And then they get money, for obviously pushing the vaccines by both the hospital and the insurance company. Our inborn immune systems are disappearing, which leads to increased infections, cancers, and an early death. We are an over-medicated society. Vaccine madness is the unhealthy practice of smothering people with foreign chemicals. This is a doctor, right? Who's, relaying these types of messages to Diane from BLN News. And this doctor, it sounds like he might be on the Maha bandwagon, right? Make America healthy again. So I want to know how many doctors, if you are a doctor and listening to the program right now, and you are secretly cheering on our new HHS director, give me a text and I'll leave your name out of it. Give me a text. Let me know if you agree that we need to roll back some of these vaccinations on this CDC schedule. It's very clear that the COVID vaccine, which is on this recommendation list to get for 15 months before you're 15 months of age, COVID vaccinations obviously have significant links to health problems and injury. And we know that COVID doesn't significantly threaten babies. So I don't know why that's on the CDC's recommendation list here. So I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. Yeah, I asked my mom. She just says that she honestly doesn't remember, but I think I got like the MMR or mumps vaccine. I don't think I got the polio one. I didn't get the chickenpox one because I already had chicken, or like, it went around in our house. So like, I don't even know what ones I've had because my mom doesn't remember. So, but I'm 63 and I had 3 vaccinations. Kid, and I'm somehow still alive. Yeah. The vaccination thing, it's just too much. Maybe some of these are warranted, but the hepatitis B, that doesn't even make any sense because hepatitis B can only be transferred needle to needle, sexual transmission. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Now, one thing that I'm seeing here that might make sense, mumps, MMR, mumps, measles, rubella, but I'd even question that. There's a bunch of flu shots here, and that's going to RV1, RV5. I know babies that didn't get these vaccinations did wind up getting respiratory viruses, and they made it out just fine. Okay. And they had their natural immunity. And as this doctor had said, or, relayed a summary of the comments that he had made, our inborn immune systems are disappearing. And when that happens, there's an increased risk of infections, cancers, and an early death. And natural immunity does not develop or stay robust when there's artificial immunity repeatedly imposed. Yeah, I think that would be interesting to hear from some of you if that has happened, where you're taking your kid in and they are not seeing your child because your child is not vaccinated. I'm excited. Make America healthy again. RFK Jr. Here I'll say it. Okay, the cabinet picks that I love the best: Tom Homan, number 1, number 2, RFK Jr. These two have really been doing their jobs. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, I'm a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like Pam Bondi. I wanted, obviously, Matt Gaetz. I don't know if he was a serious pick. I wonder if they, had thrown him out there to, make the libs scream, and then, whoever Donald Trump appointed next. These are Donald Trump appointments, which I'm hoping that they prove me wrong. Okay, it's only been a few months into the first year of his term here, and we'll see if they stick around. But I'm not impressed with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. Incredibly impressed, because there have been no arrests regarding January 6th. I want to know who the FBI informants were who actually caused an should be charged with incitement. They were the ones who riled up that crowd. They were the informants. No arrests have been made. And Kash Patel, he's denying that Jeffrey Epstein, or the possibility that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. I feel like that's widely accepted that Jeffrey Epstein, the coroner's report, right? And it's clear that somebody had to go in there and kill him. I mean, this is pretty much common knowledge, and the fact that you had Kash Patel say no, Kash Patel say no, that didn't happen, and he completely dismissed concern or the theories, not even theories. I mean, I would say that it's almost factual at this point. We know that Jeffrey Epstein didn't hang himself in his cell. And you guys can go check out the coroner's report. I won't get into it because that's not the show today. All right, I'm going to read some of these texts because I've gotten into, or I've got some of these texts on the text line. I'm going to get to some of my texters. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel. We're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So I do appreciate you being here this morning. I've got to get to so much today. I do want to get to this, though. This is a story at BLN News. Again, House Bill 2827. Is it dead? It looks like it's dead for now, but it could not stay that way. And I'll tell you how, because it's a shell bill. The left has a habit of using these shell bills. And shell bill is created by stripping all the language from a bill that has already passed, requires 3 readings, and then they replace it with new content. And the sponsors want, if they want to force this bill through. Okay. So it's a game that they do, and I've seen it happen in real life. It's quite incredible to watch. Now there's an explanation, and this is somebody from the Illinois Christian Home Educators. Obviously, they were opposed to the homeschooling bill. This would have regulated homeschooling, would have forced truancy officers or allowed truancy officers to come into your home and ensure that you are homeschooling. In fact, homeschooling, it would have forced you to also hold on, I'm going to get to this fella here in just a second, but it also would have forced you to share with your local public school, hey, I am homeschooling, and you had to fill out all kinds of documentation. And if you didn't fill out the documentation, truancy officers would come and possibly even arrest you, fees, fines, all that stuff. So let's take a listen. This is somebody from the Illinois Christian Home Educators. Take a listen. Here we go.
Hey, fellow homeschoolers, this is Kirk Smith with ICHE. I'm going to talk to you about HB 2827, give you a quick update. It is Monday, May the 12th, about 11:30 at night. And the reason I'm giving you this update is I've seen several posts now that are claiming absolute victory over HB 2827. And while I am indeed very optimistic that this bill will not be called for a vote on the House floor and not make it to the Senate, we cannot say this bill is dead or it's killed, because it is not. Folks, as I shared in a previous video, there have been times in the last week of the session that they've taken a very bad bill, a very unpopular bill, a very controversial bill like HB 2827, and try to sneak it into a shell bill and pass it through, ram it through, slide it through, whatever language you want to use, in the last week of session. So to be accurate, the bill is not dead. We want to stay very attentive to these last few weeks of the legislative session. And folks, I want to tell you what a great job you've done. You have overwhelmed the Capitol with record numbers and witness lists and in your attendance. But having said that, we need something else from you. Homeschoolers are great to show up when the battle is intense, but we need to have you stay a steady part of this battle, because, again, it's not going to go away. One of the representatives just shared a town hall meeting. They're going to be having town hall meetings to inform people, about this bill, which was suggest, number one, they don't have the votes this time, but number two, they're going to try to bring it up again in the future. One homeschooling mom of ICHE said that she was talking to one of the co-sponsors and said they were having a very pleasant conversation. All of a sudden, this representative's demeanor changed, and she said, "You will report to us." It wasn't, "We're just trying to do this for the children, for the abused children." Folks, do you realize, once again, every single example they've used of abuse has not come from within the homeschool community. It's come from the public school community into the homeschooling community. These parents were public school parents who were abusing their kids, and now for some reason they want to assume that homeschoolers are guilty of abusing our kids until proven innocent. That is such a sham. It is going against the will of the people. It is such a political atrocity that must be called out. For those of you who live in these representatives' districts, you need to hold them accountable. There's an election.
All right. Well, I wanted to share some of that with you. Yeah, so it looks like it might be dead, might come back, but I really hope that a lot of these homeschoolers who showed up at the Capitol, like thousands upon thousands of people who showed up at the Capitol to fight this bill, we need more of that. It was this one bill, but there have been bills that have been passed that make it easier for public educators. I mean, just look at CPS and the abuses, the sexual abuse, the inappropriate relationships with students, the things that have gone on in the public schools. And there have been bills that have been passed that have made it easier for public educators to do these sorts of things and to get away with it. So shell bills, I wanted to take a lesson or give you a lesson on shell bills. This actually happened with Bill a couple of sessions ago, where there was this bill. It was called the HB 4488. Okay. And it was stripped. Originally, this bill has to do with Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week. Okay. And all of a sudden, at the end of session, it was stripped. It got through the readings. It got through everything, right? Because Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week. Yeah, let's just pass it through, and this is what your legislators do. They'll strip that bill. It was gutted and replaced, okay, with an omnibus election bill. Specifically, this omnibus election bill made it to where there were no campaign contribution caps on general races, both primary and general races. So they were only applied to primary races. Now both primaries and general election candidates have unlimited campaign contributions funneled into their war chest from political parties. Okay. So it changed our elections completely. Obviously, this HB 4488, there were plenty of other things in it, but this is their game. So be on the lookout for that. When we come back, there are a few things I want to get to this morning. Go ahead, find us on cities99.com and check out the cruise stops. We are going to be this Friday, today, 5 to 7. Man, of course it's Friday. It's Friday. May 16th from 5 to 7 today. Eagles Club, Main Street in Bloomington, from 5 to 7 p.m. The first drawing is going to be 5:30. Expedia Cruises, you can register for a cruise, become a finalist at one of our cruise stops this spring. We'll be taking entries and drawing 2 finalists to win a prize pack and to qualify for our grand prize giveaway, which is going to be at the Smash House Tavern on June 26th. You won't want to miss it. We're doing a 2-hour live broadcast out there today. First finalist 30 minutes, then the second finalist is going to be in the latter half of the second hour of the live broadcast. So you got to be present to win. Like I said, grab a green crayon, write this down. Eagles Club, Main Street, Bloomington, from 5 to 7 today. Don't miss it. All right, when we come back, I do want to get to one more story. This is Jerry Seinfeld. This is incredible. Jerry Seinfeld offered a perfect response to these pro-Hamas New Yorkers accusing him of genocide. And his response was simply laughter in their faces. Jerry Seinfeld, Jewish, and he was simply, at this Knicks game. And the progressive New Yorkers are still very angry at Jewish people over Israel defending itself against the October 7th terrorist attacks. And for whatever reason, these people who vote and reelect Democrats over and over again in New York City are really, really angry at Jerry Seinfeld. Okay. These progressives who vote for Democrats over and over, vote blue no matter who it is. These people are mad at Jerry Seinfeld over being Jew and being in public, essentially. But Jerry Seinfeld, he obviously has this amazing response to this dingbat. And we're going to get to it here next on Conservative Gap. Hey, smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. Yeah, Pam Bondi, Patel, they've been really big disappointment. Politico with their hand in the cookie jar. Yeah, I forget how much money that they actually got from the government through, I think it was that USAID funding, if I'm not mistaken, Bob. I think that's what Politico got where their funding came from. It was the USAID money, and they shouldn't have, obviously, because they're not even really they don't disclose that. They are a privately owned company, and they were caught getting money from the government. So that is a big deal. And Pam Bondi obviously hasn't arrested anybody, and Kash Patel, so they were caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And there's been no arrest there, no arrest for January 6th. Obviously, there were FBI informants who, acted out of turn. You can't get people to commit crimes by committing crimes yourself, right? At the FBI, he had these FBI people in khakis there at January 6th, telling people to go inside, ushering people to go inside. And there have been no arrests there. There was obviously the Capitol Police officer who shot. How am I forgetting her name? Ashley Babbitt shot Ashley Babbitt point blank in the face, for absolutely no reason. She was crawling and she had her head down, and he shot her. She was crawling through this broken, it wasn't even a window. Okay. People say it was a window. It wasn't a window. It was a door that was already broken when she got there, and she was crawling through it. And he had no idea. Maybe she was trying to leave the Capitol, got shoved in by one of these FBI informants, am I right? Or what FBI agents that were there that day. Maybe she was shoved in there or told to go in by an FBI informant. He got her to commit the crime by committing himself or committing the. I don't know. I was there, but I do know that she was shot in the head, and she wasn't even looking up. She wasn't resisting. She wasn't doing anything. And this guy walking around free. And what the hell is Pam Bondi and Kash Patel? What are they doing? I'm sorry. Pritzker investigated on 64 NGOs. I saw this. So his NGOs, he's enriching himself, obviously, through these NGOs. The NGOs shouldn't be getting government funding at all. And here's why. Actually, I want to play this. I do want to get to Jerry Seinfeld, but this is really important. I can't decide, but I'll give it to you guys for the stream. And maybe we'll have time for both, because the Jerry Seinfeld thing is pretty quick. I want to share this. This is absolutely incredible. Here we go. This is Brad Holbrook, and he's an Illinois representative, and there was grassroots efforts, like Doge efforts, to uncover that the state of Illinois has been funding $1 billion worth of taxpayer funds to secretive, politically tied NGOs. Illinois taxpayers were diverted from true community aid to politically aligned groups pushing divisive agendas. This is pure Democrat corruption at its finest. Let's get to this. I'm going to share this with our listeners because this is incredible. NGOs shouldn't be getting government money at all. They are not subject to FOIA. They don't have to disclose where a lot of their money goes and what money is government money, what money is public donations on their tax filings. It's very hard to figure that out. And it's not right because you are disenfranchising the groups that are traditionally faith-based, who are doing actual charitable work, and you're getting money from the government. Let's look at this. Here we go. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Yes, Jerry Seinfeld. His crime was being Jewish in public. Okay, so he was just merely existing. He's a comedian, and I guess he's responsible for genocide happening. Okay, and that was conveyed to him at a Knicks game. There's this Becky type woman screaming at him and screaming at the sky, saying, "You support genocide of babies in Gaza." And Seinfeld, his reaction, I can't play the clip because it's riddled with profanities, and it wasn't even worth editing because it was just like bleep this, bleep that, bleep this, and it's like it's not even really worth editing this clip because it's all profanities that she's shouting at him simply because he's Jewish and he was in public. Okay, and Seinfeld, all he did, he was just laughing at this woman, and that is the perfect response. Here's what you have to understand. Like, this was outside of the Garden, well, in New York, and it was a Knicks game, Knicks and Celtics, I think. And anytime there's a crowd of people, leftists wind up showing up and they wind up screaming at the sky or screaming about whatever political opinion they have that week. And this woman was obviously pro-Hamas delegate of some kind. Maybe she was paid to be there. Who knows? But she's clearly not a basketball fan, right? She was just there to get into Jerry Seinfeld's face as he was getting into his SUV. And we know that Jerry Seinfeld, his only crime is being Jewish and being in public. So his response was truly amusing. He just kind of laughed in her face. And he says, quote, "No, I only support your genocide." He was, joking. But like, these people are insane, absolutely insane. Like, you actually just like accused somebody of clearly not he's not committing genocide of babies in Gaza. He's just simply Jewish, and all the Jewish people have been doing is defending themselves since that October 7th terrorist attack. All right, I want to switch gears. Let's talk about the NGOs. NGOs should not be getting government money, and I guess that the Illinois Freedom there was grassroots efforts, Doge, Illinois Doge. They uncovered $1 billion in taxpayer funds, being funneled to secretive, politically tied NGOs. This is insanity. I bet it's even more than that. I mean, there is just so much corruption here. And here's Brad Holbrook, State Representative Brad Holbrook, talking about how NGOs really shouldn't be getting government money here.
I'm Representative Brad Holbrook of the 107th District of Shelbyville. Today, we're turning our attention to a staggering amount of taxpayer money, over $1 billion, that's being funneled into political connected non-government organizations, or NGOs. This wasn't uncovered by government watchdogs, but concerned Illinoisans and Republican legislators that our grassroots effort we call Doge, or the Department of Government Efficiency. Before we show you where the money's going, we need to ask one simple question. Why is government funding NGOs at all? First, there's no transparency. NGOs aren't subject to the Freedom of Information Act or FOIA. Taxpayers can't see how their money is being spent. Just last week, a lawsuit was filed because the state refused to release a contract detailing how much public money was being sent to specific groups. Second, the budget language is vague and on purpose. These grants are buried under broad terms with little or no detail. Lawmakers are being asked to approve funding without knowing how the money will be used or even who's getting it. Third, the human services budget has been hijacked. It used to mean helping seniors, helping single mothers, and people with disabilities. Now it's packed with programs for politically aligned groups offering vague services like parent mentoring, immigrant support, LGBTQ advocacy, and many are race or identity-based initiatives that serve political agendas, not real need. Fourth, this spending undermines real charity. Faith-based groups and private charities are being pushed aside while politically connected NGOs scoop up taxpayer dollars. The government is picking winners and losers and rewarding those who keep the majority party in power.
So that was State Representative Brent Holbrook. I don't know why NGOs are getting that. And nonprofit doesn't mean you're like holier than thou. I want to be very clear about that because, you know, these people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary, and it's not clear how much of that is private donations, how much of that is taxpayer dollars. So yesterday I brought you a story about the $50 million for after school programs. Okay, Act Now Coalition held a press conference. They get $50 million. It's a state line budget, and that hasn't been actually released yet because the state is in such a dismal fiscal state, their budget deficit rate. So you can't even fund these programs because you've given $3.2 billion to illegal immigrants, you know, and the state's just terrible and in a terrible fiscal state. But $50 million in grants to after school programs, and really by after school programs, we mean NGOs. Okay. And I looked at just one of these NGOs who receives some of this grant money, the $50 million. Okay. Just one of these NGOs, there's 3 employees, and 3 of their top paid employees. They had 5 paid employees or 6 or something like that. The top 3, between all 3 of them collectively, over $700,000 in salaries, and it were in compensation. Now, I don't know how much of that, because it's not publicly disclosed, is taxpayer dollars, but maybe some of it is. Some of that $50 million grant money. You know, and here they are saying, we're in it for the kids. We're in it for the after school programs where every cent is going to go to the kids. Yeah, but Becky at the tippity top, right? And I'm just that is making hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of these salaries exceed $300,000. And let's put this into perspective. You know, the president of the United States makes over, I mean, obviously the perks and things like that, but as far as compensation, 400,000. I mean, these people are making so much money in these nonprofit organizations, and you begin to question, is this all just a scam to start paying our friends to create these NGOs that provide vague services, and they might not actually provide like true help and true services? Is this just a way to pay our friends? All right, I gotta go, but I hope you have a blessed weekend. We're gonna be back bright and early Monday morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. As always, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can subscribe to the channel. I hope you have a safe weekend. We had a huge hailstorm yesterday. Huge hailstorm. Golf ball size hail. So stay safe out there. It looks like it could be kind of volatile conditions today where there's a marginal risk for severe weather. As always, Midwest Equipment brings you your severe weather center. When the skies turn gray and the wind picks up, turn your dial to Cities 92.9. Have a blessed weekend. Bye-bye. Catch you later.